But in terms of sticking to this sort of revenue target, do you think you would be able to stick to it, considering that the business has seen a bit of an up and down? I mean, across the industry, there's been some sort of challenges owing to GST and demonetization. Despite that, do you think that you could grow as aggressively as planned?
So business will, as you're doing business in any country or in India, let me talk India specific, there will be challenges. The other name for business is about transformation and challenges, right? So one has to keep finding opportunity in every adversity, and I think that's okay, it's fine. I think it will give you a lot of opportunity to grow further. I think India is a very, very large market. Consumers are, the kind of demand that we are seeing from a product perspective. We are seeing a lot of traction in the milk food drink category as well. We are very, very hopeful that we will be able to progress on the plans that we chalk out.
You have two very big brands in your portfolio. Of course, you have Glucon-D as well as Complan, two big brands that you've been looking at growing over the last couple of months. What plans do you have for both these brands?
So Complan, we've recently tied up with Saurav Ganguly, who's a leading icon, and he doesn't need any introduction. Complan primarily talks about superior nutrition, and we are so confident on the product. We are seeing traction both from a market share as well as in business perspective. The consumers are resonating with the kind of plans that, the kind of messaging that we are going, and I think you cannot expect anything better from the campaign. And I think we are very, very happy that the way it's going at this point in time.
Where do you see these brands maybe 3 to 5 years down the line? Do you see these brands to be perhaps 1,000 crore brands for the company in India?
See, the categories that we operate have a huge flex to grow. Okay, for example, the categories that I was talking to you about, powders, glucose powders as a category, the category penetration is between 11 to 12%. So there is so much of headroom available. Okay, so India, as I was telling you, is a huge market. So when you see an opportunity in urban, the similar opportunity lies in rural as well. Across pop strata, across income groups, there are multiple opportunities that exist. Glucon-D, take example of Nycil, take example of Complan or Ketchup for that matter. I think it's a huge potential that we see with the kind of power of brands that these brands have. And the numbers that you just said are just numbers, and I think you can continue to aspire even bigger numbers, I would say.
As we speak, GSK has offered Horlicks on sale, and do you think it would make sense for an acquisition in the space? Because of course we clearly know that GSK is not focusing on Horlicks anymore.
No, I do not want to comment on about the strategy of any other company at this point in time. But at this point in time, I would not want to comment on our stand on Horlicks in specific.
Apart from these two brands, you also have other big brands within your portfolio. You've got Heinz Ketchup, you've got Nycil, and as well as a ghee brand under your umbrella. Different products belonging to different categories. Is this a time to consolidate, rethink your portfolio, look at making more additions, or perhaps grow this base?
As I was telling you some time back, the opportunity that exists in both from a portfolio expansion perspective as well as from a sales and distribution perspective as well, and definitely the current core that we have. So that's what we're trying to do. So we are trying to evaluate multiple categories whether we can get into. But as I was telling you earlier as well, which is Kraft Heinz, the primary objective of the organization, the purpose of the organization is to be the best food company growing a better world. We don't want to get into a product which is what we're not very confident of from a quality as well as from a consumer offering perspective, because for us consumers come first, and therefore we are making sure that whatever products that or the categories that we want to get into are clearly passing all the quality criteria that we chalk out. And I think that's exactly what we try to aspire for. We have a very, very stringent quality criteria, and we do not under any circumstances would want to flout that, and therefore right now we're making sure that we're exploring from both perspectives. So portfolio is definitely one area that we're looking at in the future.
There has been news of you pulling out of cheese in the Indian market under the brand Kraft. Is there some truth to that?
To be very honest, as I was telling you, that I think the primary focus of the organization is to focus on the brands that we are, the brands that I just told you, which is Complan, Glucon-D, Nycil. From a priority perspective, every organization has its own priority matrix with respect to where to prioritize and where not. From a pull-out perspective, and I think the primary, it's oriented towards prioritizing on the lead brands that we have. I think that's the strategy that the organization has taken at this point.
And talking about focus, sauces is a big focus for you. You have ketchup and you have mayonnaise, and you've localized them to suit India as well. How big will the sauces at the ketchup pie be for you maybe 3 to 5 years down the line?
So ketchup is around 700 odd crores, and if I add Chinese sauces into it, it will be roughly around 1200 crores as a market. And I think I think it's also very fragmented to a large extent, apart from the tomato ketchup segment. And I think we're trying to make sure that we make significant progress on that. So we have very aggressive plans on ketchup as well. But right now, as I was telling you, the primary focus is to focus on the task that we've taken on at hand on the brands that I just spoke about.
Talk to us about the kind of plans you have for your global products. Will you be bringing more global products into the Indian market?
So, if you look at the categories that we operate, I think we have 23, 24 categories that we operate overseas, and I think we are the 5th largest food beverage company in the world. So there are multiple categories that we can just simply lift and shift out here. But I think we are trying to first make sure that we are focusing on the task that we have taken up on the brands, the current portfolio. Just trying to make sure that we can grow the current core. We are exploring certain categories. We are in the stage of exploration right now at this point in time. We also want to make sure that we are offering the right value proposition, the right consumer offering to the consumers. And as I was telling you earlier as well, we are a very, very responsible marketeer as well as an organization, and therefore we don't want to come up with something and then realize no, it didn't work and then pull out. And therefore we want to do our homework right before coming up with any product.
So Planters is a product that everyone's been looking forward to. What's the progress on that, and is this available now in India?
It's available in a very informal channel, but from an organization current perspective, I don't think, because if you go to any store, you'll figure out the product available, but that's predominantly imported. From an India perspective, right now we are not having that in the pipeline, but we are exploring it, whether we can come back with the product in the near future, and shortly you will hear something.
Tell us what kind of advice, what kind of mentorship do you give the young talent? How do you nurture them here?
I think it's very important to have a very clear expectation setting done, because I think the millennials as well as the Gen Zs, which will be walking into the workforce from a couple of years from now, are digital natives, and I think you don't need to tell them about what is to be done. It is orienting them towards, guiding them towards the right purpose. And I think if you keep showing them and keep setting the right expectations, then I think the task could be very, very clearly be accomplished. At the same time, I think most of the organizations would need to eventually look at the work policies, like flexibility towards work hours, the work from home, location free working, remote access, and all of that. And I think those are some of the things which will continue to keep bothering if we are not flexible and adaptable towards these generation.
Are you a workaholic? What do you do on weekends? How do you balance this whole work and life situation?
See, primarily I try to balance work and life to a large extent, because in order to be effective at work, you need to have the right balances and the other spheres as well. Weekends is what I try to make sure that I spend good time with my family. Okay, I like running, so I try to run, make sure that I try to cover up on the lost days over the weekends, and I think I try to balance it out. I like like listening to music, like traveling, and I think I do a lot of it with my family as well.
Okay, time for a very quick rapid fire. Are you ready?
Yes.
Heinz or Kraft?
Both, I would say, because the portfolio has opportunities in both sides, and I think I'm all for opportunities.
Mayonnaise or cheese, your personal favorite?
My personal favorite would be cheese.
What warning would you like to give competitors?
I think I don't want to give any warnings. I think they are there to play their game. We are here to play our games. So I think we'll stick to our basics.
If not a CEO, then?
Travel blog writer, I would, for sure, without any doubt.
Traveler or foodie?
Oh, you've asked of the foodie.
A run by the beach or trek up the mountain?
Run by the beach, any day.
All right, you performed very well on our rapid fire. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for inviting us over to your office.
Thank you very much.
With that, it's a wrap on this very special show. Thank you so much for watching.